Hey guys, my name is Matimio, and today we are going to be taking a look at the G36C from Battlefield 4. And going into this, I really wanted to like this weapon. I checked out its stats on Simtech.com. I noticed that they looked fairly mediocre. It didn't look like it did anything well, but I was like, you know what? It's probably better in practice. Let's give it a go. Let's start to unlock some of the attachments. Things will get better. But after around 300 kills, I never had that moment where I was like, yes, this weapon is so good, I'm so glad I'm using it, because for the most part, it was rage-inducing. Like, every single round that I went into, I had some fun moments here and there, and if I was able to outplay my enemy, I was able to go on some kill streaks, but for the most part, I just felt like I was using a mediocre weapon that doesn't do well in any circumstance. And so, to start off our journey in discovering why the G36C sucks, it has a rounds per minute of 650. And my first reaction when hearing these numbers is to assume that the weapon must do well at long-range combat. Usually when DICE is creating and balancing their weapons, they give the low rate of fire weapons some sort of advantage, and that usually comes in the form of either a higher damage model or laser beam-like accuracy. But this really isn't the case for the G36C. It has a standard damage model of most of the carbines, going to be doing 25 damage up close and then dropping off to 15.4 damage at long range, but then when you look at its recoil numbers, they aren't really any better. I mean, the vertical is solid, coming in at 0.24, but its horizontal is where things get a little hairy. It has a left kick of 0.3 and a right of 0.3, basically creating a weapon that's going to struggle at long range because you can't predict where the weapon is going to bounce. It does make aiming the G36 quite easy, I have to give it that, because all you basically have to do is point and click at your enemy, but if you're looking for a weapon that has pinpoint-like accuracy, you're just not going to find that with this gun. And so I then thought to myself, there must be something that I'm missing. There must be some aspect of the G36C that makes it a more viable and competitive pick. And so I looked through everything, I compared it to all the other carbines, but I honestly wasn't impressed by what I found. I mean, it has the standard 30 rounds per magazine, so you're not getting any advantage there. It has a fast reload time of 2.1 seconds if you have a bullet in the chamber, or a slow reload time of 2.85 seconds if you've gone through your entire magazine. And while that's decent, it's no better than all of the other carbines. And so what you're kind of just left with when you lay everything out there, you have a weapon that does things okay and decently, but it's basically just a very mediocre weapon. And so now that we got all the stats out of the way, how do you go about using the G36C effectively? Where do you want to play it? How are you going to get some kill streaks? And really, how are you going to be able to have some enjoyable gameplay? Well, at least for me, I think that this is a carbine that excels at the medium game. You don't want to play up close and personal if you can avoid it, because if you go against someone who is using a FAMAS or just really anyone with a high rate of fire weapon, you're not going to last very long. But that's also true for long range combat as well, because if you go against someone who is using a AK-12 or really any weapon that has a low rate of fire but a manageable recoil and not a lot of bullet spread, they're gonna dominate your face. And so for me, I think the sweet spot is the medium game. All that being said though, that doesn't make up for the fact that it sucks in all of the other categories. You guys know that when you use the AK-12 or a low rate of fire weapon, it's not like it all of a sudden sucks at a medium distance, like it prefers long range combat, but it's still gonna excel at medium range as well. The same is true for a high rate of fire weapon. It wants that tight-knit combat, but if you have someone at a medium distance, you're still gonna be able to take them out no problem. And so to use a carbine that basically does well where every weapon does well, puts you on a level playing field, yes, but it pretty much puts you at a disadvantage in every other circumstance. So essentially, you have to outplay your enemy in every engagement. Like, you don't get any breathing room. You have to be on top of your game, because if you're not, you're just not gonna do very well. And I know for some people that could be very appealing, and I know that I like to challenge myself, and when I was able to go on kill streaks with this weapon, it was very satisfying because I knew I was at such a huge disadvantage. But it's for that very reason why I think that the G36C is probably the worst carbine in the game. But as for some attachments, there are some things that you can do to improve the G36C. It's not going to be a night and day difference by any means, but it will improve your experience and make things a little bit better. And so the first thing that you need to do is slap on that stubby grip. It's going to increase your automatic fire or automatic accuracy by 15%. And when you compare it to all of the other underbarrel attachments, I mean, that's honestly your best bet. You don't want to use the angle grip because the G36C already has an amazing first shot recoil, so that's not going to give you any benefit. And while I guess you could use the ergo grip, which is going to increase your hip fire accuracy, this is not a weapon where you gotta want to be running and gunning. Like, sure, there will be some circumstances where hip firing is the best bet, but if you go against someone who is already using a weapon that's great for up close and personal combat, it's not like it's really gonna help you. Moving on to the barrel attachments, this is where you get a couple more options, and I would say it is a tie between the heavy barrel and the suppressor. The heavy barrel is going to increase your recoil a little bit, but because the vertical is already pretty low, I found that this increases your accuracy and allows you to do not only better at medium range, but also makes it a little bit easier for you to take out targets at a distance. If you tap fire a little bit more, the recoil is still very manageable, and I'd say that this is probably your best bet if you want to make the weapon just overall a better pick. But as for the suppressor, if used correctly and you kind of stealth around the map, this can also be another viable option. You could also use the compensator that is going to reduce your muzzle drift, but I tried that for a while. I wasn't all that impressed by it. If you want to use it, you want to test it out, you know, more power to you. But for me, I just wasn't impressed by it, and so I would pick between the heavy barrel and the suppressor. And so overall, if you are looking for a challenge in Battlefield 4, if you are looking for a weapon that is going to put you at a disadvantage and you really have to outplay your enemy, then the G36C is going to be a good bet for you. But if that doesn't sound appealing, that doesn't really tickle your fancy, then I wouldn't touch this with a 10-foot pole. Just stay away from it. Don't even try to unlock the attachments. Maybe if you're on console and you like the idea of not having to really manage the recoil, then this could be a decent pick. But for everyone else out there, I would recommend not using this gun. But that is about it for today's review, guys. I hope you enjoyed, and so until tomorrow, have a good one and take it easy.